Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're here for our third installment of our Engage weekly talks. We decided, since we can't be on the field, that we would continue to teach the values we instill off the field. And so we hope that you're all staying healthy and safe. Today, we have the privilege of talking with Ted Schmidt, who is not only my dad and my boss at the firm of Schmidt, Sethi, and Ekmajian, but also the president of FC Tucson Youth and the former president of Pima County Junior Soccer League. So kind of like us, only a little bigger of an organization. He is going to talk to us a little bit today about leadership and how it is that he can run a program that big. So good afternoon, Dad, Ted, Mr. Schmidt.
Hi there.
Can you tell me briefly, how big is FC Tucson? How many teams, how many players, how many coaches do you have to lead over?
So we have almost 2,000 players. We have a recreational program, a developmental program, and a competitive program. We have probably as many as 80 teams if you go all the way up and down, and each one of those teams has a coach. In the recreational program, we have a lot of volunteer coaches, a lot of parents that volunteer to coach. So that's pretty much the size. We are the largest soccer club in Southern Arizona.
So, Engaged, we're a little smaller. We've got about 80 players, a handful of parents. How is it that you, as the president of a organization that large, how do you manage all that? What would you tell kids that want to be leaders someday, what they need to do in order to lead a group that large?
Well, I think the first thing is, if you're going to be a leader, every person has to be true to themselves. And in my career and in my job right now, I've seen leaders lead in a lot of different ways. Some are very vocal, some are quiet leaders. And I think trying to imitate the way somebody else does it isn't always the best idea. For me personally, I'm a really big believer in communication. So I'm not afraid to talk to the people working with me, talking to them regularly to make sure that they understand what's expected of them. And I like to follow that up by putting things in writing so that people not only have heard, but I have it in writing that this is what is expected of you. Here's what you need to do. And the flip side of that I think is really important for any good leader is I try to be a really good listener. I'm telling people how we want to do things. I'm trying to lead them in the direction that is in the best interest of the club, but I don't have all the ideas. I don't have all the best ideas. And in fact, a lot of times the best ideas come from people that are, working day to day. I'm not a coach. So the guys that are out there on the field working with the players day in and day out, oftentimes will listen to something I'm telling them I think we need to do. And they'll say, well, here's why that may not work. I think being a good communicator, so there's no misunderstandings, being a good listener is really important. I think when I set goals for people working with me, when I have expectations of what I want them to do, I not only want to communicate that well, but then I need to be good at following up and being in touch to know that they're doing what I expect them to do, or if they're having problems, what the problems are, so I can help them deal with that. And then I think a good leader is who's following the people carefully that he's working with, is very good at positive feedback. Mm-hmm. When I have people, the people that work with me, I see a good performance, I go out of my way to tell them, recognize them, and recognize them in front of other people, praise them, so that they understand that we're all pleased with what they're doing and they feel good about what they're doing. I think using the carrot rather than the stick is usually the most effective way to get things done. And then I guess I try I think you hear this a lot, but it really is true. I think the best leaders lead by example. I don't ask people to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself or I haven't already done. And I feel like I can't be a good leader if I'm not all in the program. Like, it has to be really important to me. I have to be totally invested. I have to be giving it all the time, more time than anybody else, and more blood, sweat, and tears to get things done, so they can see I'm not just somebody barking out orders or telling them what to do, but I'm in there getting my hands dirty and doing it myself. And in fact, I tend to see all the things that I get involved in where I'm in a leadership position. I tend to find myself doing more than anybody else. Sometimes I feel I can get what I want done better if I just do it myself. But I think that leading by example is really important. And then I guess the last thing I would say is, I think a good leader has to have integrity. I think a good leader has to be true to their word. When I tell the people that are working with me that I'm going to do something, I do it. I need to be dependable and reliable. People need to know that my word is good and that I'm not going to mislead them, that they can count on me. Because the biggest challenge for any leader, in my opinion, in my experience, is being able to develop a relationship with people where you can count on them. So often in a leadership position, I will assign tasks, ask people to do different things, and I find out pretty quickly some people just are not good at follow through. They don't end up doing what they're supposed to do. They don't do what I ask them to do. And it's hard for me to get performance out of other people if they can't count on me.
You know, I think on that last piece there, that's something that we had my dad on earlier episode, I guess we could call it. But he has a term that he coined recently that I love. And just what you're talking about there, he calls it the trust triad. It's you have to be able to trust your team for them to perform at their tasks. Your team has to trust you to lead them properly. And then the last piece is you also have to trust yourself as a leader, because if you can't trust yourself, you're not going to perform at a high level. So I think you're really hitting everything right on the head with that. And what I really loved is how much of what you were saying ties back to my experience as rugby, but then also going back to soccer. You know, communication is so huge inside rugby and soccer. And I didn't realize this back when I played, but I got so blessed that I got to play goalie in soccer before I played rugby, because I got used to talking the entire game long. And that's something that a lot of people don't learn when they're playing other sports. But that communication, that over communication, is so key to leadership and to, performance when it comes to sports, I think.
I agree totally. Your dad, that's good advice from your dad. I never thought about it in that way, but that's spot on.
So imagine when you have a big group of people that you're leading, that not only do you, when you were telling people, I guess you need to have a lot of trust in the people that you assigned the role that you're going to be managing, and you have to leave a lot of that responsibility to other people.
That's right. Actually, my leadership style, just to be really blunt about it, is I want people to know at the outset, here's what's expected. In my running the soccer program, I have a board of directors, and a lot of people want to be on the board of directors. But I tell them before we'll accept them on, I say, look, this is a working board. You're going to have jobs to do, and if you don't do them, you're not going to be on the board anymore. And I can't perform well if I can't depend on those people. So my style is to do the best I can to give people direction and communication and guidance. But if they don't perform, then I need to replace them with somebody that will, because if I can't do it all myself, I have to be able to delegate to people and depend on them.
So shifting gears just a little bit, because we do have a lot of little athletes that are going to be watching this, and we're talking about, what it takes to be the average athlete versus to being an all-star or superstar. So in your experience as a president of a large soccer organization, what do you notice in all-star athletes? What are they doing differently that the normal or average players are not doing?
Well, the most important general topic, I guess I would say, is hard work. I see a lot of kids that have a lot of talent, and maybe more talent than some of the other kids, but if they're not really dedicated to being that star athlete, they're not going to be. The kids that excel, that are really the best at their sport, they're the kids that show up early to practice and they pay attention, and they're given 110% on everything from the start to finish of the practice. I mean, they're not lagging on anything. If we're running sprints, they're going to be in the front. They're going to be leading the group. They're going to want to listen carefully and do every drill 110%. They also are as they're good listeners. They listen to their coach, and they're not afraid to ask questions. They don't understand what they're supposed to be doing, they'll ask questions. Or maybe it's not even a matter of understanding something. They want to understand the game better. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to stay after practice and ask a coach for a little bit more guidance or advice on something. In our program with the soccer, we have a number of voluntary type activities that not all the players have to do. We have, for one thing, we have a finishing night where on Friday nights the kids that like to score can come and just practice on that, and they don't have to be there with their team. Just anybody in the club can come and do it. We have goalkeeper training on certain nights, and they're not required to participate in that, but the ones that are really the better players always they look for every opportunity to get on the field and do more. In soccer, we have what's called the Olympic Development Program. It's a separate program. We have the better athletes in our program they're always going to try out for ODP and try to be an ODP. They're going to be playing their game for fun on the weekends when they don't have a practice. They're going to be playing with their friends anyway. I mean, they can't put the ball down. They want to be playing all the time. They always want to be involved in it. And another thing I think that's missed a lot, but the better players watch sport. They watch the professionals that play their sport on TV or wherever, and they learn so much more about they learn tricks and get a better feel for, I think, for the game, because they're a student of the game as well.
You know, you used a phrase there, which is another one that I just tried to live by in rugby, which is student of the game. It's something where you just want to be that sponge of information. You want to be looking for every little tidbit of information, asking the coaches after practice. Because I'll give you a hint out there. All of your coaches, no matter what level they're coaching at, they have so much knowledge because they love that sport and they're dedicated to that sport. And they can only teach so much in those 2-hour blocks, 1-hour blocks that they're coaching it. And when you go up and you ask for that extra information, that's really how you can accelerate yourself to the next level. And like you said, my favorite term out there, be a student of the game. Just absorb everything. The rugby, we have so many different positions, same as soccer. There's different skills to different positions. One of the best things you can do, in my opinion, is paying attention to those other positions and learning from them. You know, I'm a tall, skinny guy. I never got to play prop except for in sevens playing rugby. But I love to learn what the props are doing because they're the strongest guys out on the field. So if they're doing something, I need to learn how to do it because that can help my game and help me to get better.
And it's funny that you brought up footage, because actually last week, Camden and I showed footage and we broke it down for the kids to watch. And we explained that all the all-stars that you look up to and that you favor and that you watch on TV, 90% of why they're there is what they're doing outside of the camera view. They're practicing every day. They're watching film. They're doing all the things that you just explained. So kind of leaning into that topic, there's a lot of kids and athletes out there that are stuck at home. They can't go to practice, or they can't practice isn't available to them yet. They can't participate in games. So what do you recommend to your FC Tucson players that they should be doing at home? They can't be out on the field.
Well, so we've really attacked that problem. I'm really proud of what we did at FC Tucson to deal with this stay-at-home stuff. For one thing, there is a lot of really good stuff online. Now, we created a lot of stuff. We had weekly, 6 nights out of the week, there was a time when our players could tune in to an internet program where one of our coaches would be demonstrating and teaching a skill. But we also wanted these kids to stay fit. So we gave them fitness programs to do where even by themselves, they could run, they could do certain calisthenics, strength training stuff that, you don't need to be in a weight room. If you got a backyard and you got a couple cartons of milk, you'd be surprised at things you can do. So we try to give them that kind of a program where they could stay fit, they could watch stuff online, and then a lot of them with soccer, I had kids that were kicking the ball up against the side of the house, setting up targets in the backyard. You could still go to the park, maybe not with your team, but you could go to the park and get your parents or a brother or sister to go out with you and throw the ball around and practice different things. Watch something online. If you just Google rugby training, I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff out there that kids can find, and they watch it and then go and try to imitate. We also spent some amount of time trying to educate them on proper diet and the psychology of the game. We did a lot of stuff where we kind of talked about, what do you do on game day? How do you prepare for the game? What do you do the night before? What kind of meal do you eat? What do you think about? Visualization, a lot of things like that that the younger kids don't normally get exposed to.
I think that's great because, just like you said, the younger kids don't get exposed to that. I know I played a lot of soccer in high school, played a lot of rugby in high school, and I probably got my first dieting stuff and advice on how to prepare mentally for games probably junior, senior year. It was so late into my career that it helps me a lot, but I definitely think that that's something that the younger kids could take a lot of advantage of, because there's so much that goes into the game as far as just being mentally prepared for it, and that can really help your performance. And I think, Ted, how do you think that preparedness, when you talk about on the soccer field and, especially if you're at home now, how do you think that ties into your everyday life, as being a leader inside your organization or even in your job or anything there?
Well, if I'm understanding your question, what I have seen throughout my career as a lawyer, and I've been in a lot of different leadership positions and different organizations, and I see all the time that the best leaders tend to be people who were active in some sport in their, maybe even now, but especially when they were younger, that they learned how to work with other people. They learned teamwork. They learned that they could do more than they thought they could do. They thought they had a threshold that they couldn't go beyond, but in competition, they learned they could push through that wall, and they were capable of doing even more. They learned how to be a good loser, because you don't always win in sports. And they learned how to take it on the chin and to learn from a loss and get better. And all of those things translate into everyday life, things that you do in your job, in your school, in any activities you're involved in. I think that sports competition, if you're really dedicated to it, teaches you how to be a better person in life.
Great.
One last thing before we wrap up, because I thought this was really cool what FC Tucson did a couple of years ago. We're partners with Ben's Bells as well. We like to implement kindness into our curriculum, and even though rugby is a very rough sport, we talk about being kind, being a good sport. And I know that in the soccer environment, the fans can be very rowdy. They can be it can get pretty crazy. So can you explain really quick what you did with Ben's Bells to implement kindness into the soccer program?
Sure. Well, Ben's Bells helped us design signs that we can post at our games that send the message of being kind and what is appropriate and what's inappropriate behavior on the sideline. And these signs just basically say that you're there to cheer and support the team. You're not there to be yelling at the referees or causing a disturbance. I think probably one of the most important things we do is we require all of our parents, if their kid's going to play, they have to sign a code of conduct. They have to sign a document that lists exactly what we expect in way of behavior of them at practices and at games, and acknowledges they agree when they sign it that if they violate these rules, it's ground for them being essentially suspended from attending events. And fortunately, we haven't had to do that too often, but we have on a few occasions had to suspend people. I'll tell you the other thing, though, for your players who might be watching this. I know your time's limited. I'll just give you a really quick story, personal story. My daughter, your sister Savannah, was an exceptional soccer player. That's what got me into all of this. And when she first started performing at this competitive level, where it was really, much more intense, I would go to the games to watch, and I would yell. I never yelled at a ref, but I would yell at her, go, 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 kick it, things like that. And after, I think that may have been the second or third game when she was at the competitive level, we're in the car going home, and she sat sitting in the back seat. She said, "Dad, would you do me a favor at the games from now on?" I said, "Sure, honey. What do you want me to do?" She said, "Would you shut up?" And I was clueless, but I'll tell you what, and she'll verify, I never yelled again at a game, anything other than "go, way to go." I never tried to tell her. She says, "You don't know what the coach wants me to kick the ball when you're yelling at me to kick it. You don't know if he wants me. We have plays, we're doing things. Just be quiet." Yes, I really do think that the players, the kids, have a lot of power on this subject. And I think a player telling mom and dad, "Please do not embarrass me when I'm competing. I'm really trying hard to do the best I can out there, and it's a distraction for me. If I can hear you yelling at the referee or being inappropriate. So please don't embarrass me. Just support me. Please don't be that guy."
I love that, because I think you can take that lesson to the coaches as well. This is something especially in rugby, and more so than other sports I've played, but especially in rugby, you don't hear anything when you're out there playing. No matter how loud your coach is, no matter how great a device he's putting out there, the chances are only one or two people on that field is ever going to hear you. And it doesn't do you any good to be out there yelling and putting in that information, because even if they do hear you, Ted, they're not going to implement it. They're never going to actually do what you're talking about. That's what halftime's for. And so I think that's a great lesson as a parent, as a fan, and then especially even as a coach too, because you got to understand the situation there. The players are the ones who are actually playing the game. They see what's going on. You're not getting necessarily much of a better angle just because you're on the sideline.
Right. Well, I don't know about rugby, but in soccer, one of our biggest problems is parents yelling at the referees. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of we have 13, 14-year-old kids refereeing some of these games. And it's not easy being a referee. When I used to be in charge of discipline for the state, and I used to deal with, whenever I had a real problem with a disciplinary issue come before me, one of my favorite punishments was I would make, if it was an older kid or it was an adult, I'd say, "Here's what you're going to do. Before you can attend another soccer game, you're going to go get referee training, and you're going to referee 3 games. Then you can go and sit on the sidelines and maybe have a little better appreciation of what these guys are trying to do out there."
Oh, I love that. That's such a great solution.
Well, to wrap it all up, I just took a few notes on some of the words I heard. I heard, set expectations, communicate, listen, reliability, trust, being a student of the game, working with others, kindness, and hard work. It sounds to me like a lot of the stuff that you should be doing off the field is this kind of stuff that we teach that you should be doing on the field as well. So,
absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time, Ted, Mr. Schmidt, President. We'll be back next week with another topic.
My pleasure. I enjoyed doing it, guys. Good luck to you. Hope you guys can get back out there on the field soon.
Thank you, Ted. Great talking with you.